Hello, everyone. Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal for a second show of the day. Time to discuss what Mikel Arteta has just had to say at his press conference at London Colney. As you can tell, I'm not there. I was supposed to be. If you watched this morning's show, you'd have seen. Supposed to be there today, but unfortunately, my son is ill, so I wasn't able to go. But I did watch it, and I've just been putting some stuff together for charleswatts.football, my website, on what Mikel Arteta had to say. So I thought I'd come on here and we'll go over it in case you haven't seen it yet. Some big news from Mikel Arteta. He's been giving team news updates, injury updates, transfer updates, lot to discuss as well, including stuff on Thomas Partey, and Timber, Alexander Zinchenko, the latest team news ahead of the game against Liverpool. Slightly concerning, I would say, transfer update. If you're desperate for transfers to happen this month, if you think it's essential for Arsenal to win anything this month, I don't think you'll be too excited by what Mikel Arteta had to say at London Colney, but we will get to that a little bit later on. But we'll start with the team news ahead of the game against Liverpool at the weekend in the FA Cup third round. Zinchenko, the big injury doubt going into the game, of course, after missing the match against Fulham at the weekend. This is what Mikel had to say about Zinchenko. You can see the quotes if you're watching this on YouTube. Said on his fitness, he said he's progressing well. We have another training session tomorrow and we will evaluate if he is available or not to play and start the game. The rest of the squad, there is no news. So we'll wait and see on Zinchenko. Obviously, it's going to be really, really crucial for Arsenal if he is fit or not. If he's fit, he'll start. If he's not, then it's leaves Mikel with a decision to make in terms of what do you do at left back. Well, actually, I say that, but because options are so limited right now with Tomiyasu heading off to Africa Cup of Nations, it's probably not too much of a big decision because it's pretty much Jakub Kivior or no one, or changing things around pretty dramatically in the back line to counter for the absence of Zinchenko. So we'll wait and see on that. On and Timber, and his latest on his recovery, Mikel said, unfortunately, that's a very long-term injury. He's doing well, but he's still very far from being fit to train with the team. So we don't expect him any time soon. Now, we know Timber's, of course, recovering from that cruciate ligament injury he suffered on the opening day of the season. I've said it many times on this channel before, for people desperate and hoping that you're going to see him back by March or February, which I always see. People keep messaging me and put it on my timeline. Is he going to be back fit for March? That's what I've heard. I've said it so many times, just forget about it. He's back when he's back. There's no time scale for injury of that nature, of how significant it was. You just can't put any pressure on it. It'd be silly to put any sort of time scale on it. March, April, May, anything like that. He's just back when he's back. And even when he does return, you've then got to ease him into action. I've said it loads of times. Anything other than next season for me is a bonus when it comes to and Timber. But that was the latest on what Mikel said about him. And when asked if Aaron Ramsdale was going to start, Simon Collins at the Standard asked him that. He said, we will see on Sunday. I'm not going to give you the lineup right now. So Mikel, as usual, keeping things very, very close to his chest with that selection. I do think Ramsdale should probably start for this. If you've watched my show with James Benge yesterday, the Extra Time show, he thinks that Raya will start. And it wouldn't overly surprise me if Raya started, but I'm still hoping that Ramsdale starts. I think he deserves to start in this game. He should be the cup goalkeeper. We know he was the cup goalkeeper for the League Cup. Raya's kept his place for the Champions League games, but I think Ramsdale needs to get the FA Cup games just to keep himself involved. And look, he's a very good goalkeeper. I don't worry about Arsenal's quality dropping off dramatically if Aaron Ramsdale comes in for David Raya at the weekend. So Zinchenko is the big one, isn't it? Everyone else we know about. We'll talk about Thomas Partey in a minute. Obviously, Tomiyasu is gone now to that Asia Cup with Japan, so he's not going to be involved. And Mohamed El-Neni has gone with Egypt for the African Cup of Nations, so he's not going to be involved. So that's the latest team news when it comes to Arsenal. On Thomas Partey and the news this week that he is not going to AFCON with Ghana, that he will stay at Arsenal and continue his recovery. This is what Mikel said. He was asked, why was that decision made in the end? And Mikel said, look, it was just about common sense. He's had a long-term injury. He's been trying to push his rehab. He really wanted to be with his national team, but obviously he's still far from training with the team, and it didn't make a lot of sense to be involved. He was then asked when Partey could be fit. He was said, is it going to be months? Is it going to be weeks, or is it going to be months? And he said, hopefully it's weeks. When it's going to determine how many, a little bit depends on how the next step training with the team will take him, but he's progressing well. As I reported earlier on in the week, my understanding was that just because he wasn't part of Ghana's AFCON squad, that didn't necessarily mean that he would not be involved for Arsenal before the end of AFCON. That's what he's hoping for. That's what Arsenal are hoping for. And, if that does happen, I don't think Ghana will be, really angry about it. They've kept very close contact with Arsenal, with the medical staff about Partey's fitness. But, if you're going to a big international tournament, you want to be ready pretty much from the start. And it's pretty clear that Thomas Partey wasn't going to be. And it's just now a case of managing his rehab, the final stage of his rehab over the next couple of weeks, and seeing how quickly he can get back training, and then how quickly he can be deemed fully fit to come back for the first team. But that's what Mikel Arteta had to say about Thomas Partey. Right, the big transfer updates from Mikel in his press conference today. He was sort of pushed a little bit on the defence, and after discussing what he did about Partey and Timber, he then said, what's the plans for a left back then? Are you going to be going for a left back? And he said, we are open for the transfer market, but the emphasis is on making the most of the players we have. We will work together with the club to understand whether there are any possibilities and we have any good options. But first of all, we focus on the players that we have. He was then asked if Arsenal might not do any business in the market, and he said that's a possibility. Now, those quotes have obviously caused quite a stir on social media after they've come out. Not overly surprising quotes. I don't think Mikel's going to sit up there and say, yes, we're definitely going to make signings. We're desperate for signings. We need them. The squad needs them, or we're going to be in big trouble. You do that publicly, and then any player you are going for, any negotiation you are potentially going for, and the other club sees that and thinks, all right, fine, put another 5 million on this, put another 10 million on this, or put another 3 million on the loan fee because they're absolutely desperate. So I'm not surprised he's come out and said it like that. Does he absolutely 100% mean it? Probably, because I think there is a chance, and I've said it, I've reported on this channel, the messages we're getting from Arsenal is not to expect too much in this window. They are looking around. If there is something they can do, most likely on loan, then they will do it to try and give themselves cover between now and the end of the season. But in terms of anything massive, any big significant deals, it is very, very difficult because of the financial not issues that Arsenal face, because it's not like they're in financial difficulties or anything like that, but they are just sailing very close to the wind in terms of the FFP guidelines. The biggest indicator of that was what they had to do to get the David Raya deal done last summer with Brentford, and that hasn't changed. Doesn't change in 5 months. We'll see at the end of the season. Things will change at the end of the season because you move on to different sort of accounting periods, and you get the Champions League money that you've accumulated over the previous season. So things will improve for Arsenal, but whether they can go out and do anything massively significant, to excite the fan base in January, I've always said that is difficult. That's the message we're getting, and what Mikel Arteta says here and said in today's press conference kind of backs that up a little bit. So we'll just have to wait and see. I'm not ruling out Arsenal doing anything in the transfer market this window. They are looking. They know they need to try and strengthen. Mikel Arteta will certainly be pushing as hard as he possibly can and sending that message as much as he possibly can to the board, to the owners, to Edu, that he needs a bit of a push. The squad needs a little bit of a boost because of the injuries that they have and the players that they have missing. But if it doesn't happen, then I don't think the club are going to massively panic, and they are going to just, as Mikel says, going to have to work with what they've got. The key thing for that, and it's something that we've spoken about on this channel before, is if you are going to have to work with what you've got, then you need to work a little bit better with what you got, if you see what I mean. Get them involved a little bit more. The players that you're not using all the time, maybe you need to start involving them more so that they are ready, they are finding more rhythm, they are better equipped to come on and make an impact in games, and they're not really sort of coming in from out in the cold because they haven't had too many minutes. And I think you all know what players I'm talking about when I speak about that. I thought this was interesting. Obviously, in the build-up to the Liverpool-Arsenal game in the Premier League about 2 weeks ago, Jurgen Klopp really sort of put out a bit of a rallying cry to supporters ahead of that game. He was a bit disappointed with the Anfield atmosphere in the match immediately before the Arsenal one. And Mikel was asked about that in today's press conference, and if he thinks the Emirates can replicate Anfield's famous atmosphere. And he said, it will be one of our own. We are really happy with the atmosphere we've created at the Emirates. It's been incredibly supportive. Can we tweak it and make it even more hostile? I think we can, and that's the next step, in my opinion. We have to be so grateful for what we are achieving and creating at our home ground. And I think Sunday will be big once again. So a bit of a rallying cry from Mikel Arteta, I think, calling for a little bit more hostility from the Emirates. at these home games. Issue being on Sunday, it depends. We'll wait and see how many seats are going to be filled on Sunday, because unfortunately the train strikes are making it very, very difficult for an awful lot of people to get to these games, this game on Sunday, myself included. And it is not going to be easy. And it wouldn't surprise me if there are a few empty seats on Sunday because of that, because people just cannot get to the games. And if you are one of them who might be struggling, then please do get your ticket on the ticket exchange, because you want the stadium as full as possible. You want the atmosphere to be as loud as possible on Sunday. Switching attentions from Arsenal to Liverpool ahead of this game, Jurgen Klopp also had his press conference today ahead of the match. No Dominic Szoboszlai for Liverpool. Klopp confirming that. He obviously got the injury last weekend. And this is what Mikel had to say. What Jurgen had to say about Szoboszlai. He said, "I can confirm it is not a potential injury. It is an injury. Muscle, a hamstring. We have to wait and see. Dom is very positive. He doesn't have a lot of pain, but we have to wait a little bit." So no chance, obviously, for Sunday. Not for Wednesday, no. Szoboszlai ruled out then by Jurgen Klopp, which is a bit of a blow for Liverpool. Obviously, a very, very good player. Has had a big impact on them this season. No Endo, of course, for Liverpool, because he's headed off for the Asia Cup. And, of course, no Mohamed Salah as well. So Liverpool missing some big players ahead of Arsenal on Sunday. Jurgen Klopp was also talking about, he was asked about whether he'd looking to rotate, because Liverpool do have a League Cup semi-final with Fulham on the Wednesday, so just a few days after the Arsenal game. And Jurgen was asked whether he's going to have to rotate with that match in mind. And this is what he had to say. Some interesting comments here that I thought kind of dovetail quite nicely with what I was just talking about with Mikel Arteta. He says, "I'm not sure if Arsenal is now a game to rotate. I sit here. I don't know 100% if we have the opportunity to do so, to be honest. Whatever that means, it's not that we have the biggest squad available. We have players available and we can line a team up 100%, a good team. And I think that's what we will do. If that looks then afterwards like rotation, I don't know yet. We have 6 days between the games, 1st and the 7th. That's long enough. And so there's no need for rotation." He then goes on and says, both games are equally as important to him in terms of the FA Cup game and the Liverpool game. There are other quotes actually on there which I haven't brought up, which is a bit annoying because I thought I had. But he was talking, Klopp, about why he thinks some of his substitutes in recent games have come on and made impacts, and he talks about how he's just really managed the squad over the last few months and giving everyone minutes. And he talks about how he thinks that's really, really important. It's not just throwing players on for the sake of it in a certain game and thinking, oh, there you go, we can keep them happy. We'll give them 10 minutes here or there. He's been using them in different games a lot, maybe not starting, but using them a lot to make sure that they do have that rhythm. And he says that's a really important thing to do. And when we all talk about Mikel Arteta and possibly how he needs to improve on that, I thought those quotes were very, very interesting from Klopp as well. Actually, before I go, Mikel did also give an update on Fabio Vieira, who, of course, had groin injury that ruled him out in November. He had an operation on that injury. And this is what Mikel had to say about him. He said he's doing well, but again, it was a surgery that required 2 different things that needed to get resolved. The first signs are good, but he's still a bit far from what we wanted. He needs to keep working, and hopefully in the next few weeks, we can have him. So still a few weeks away for Fabio Vieira as well. So all of the injury updates really for Arsenal there, apart from Zinchenko, of course, who could potentially be back for the weekend, suggest that those players are not going to be back. We knew it in Timber's case, but Partey and Vieira seems like it's going to be a few weeks until we see them back in an Arsenal shirt again. So that was pretty much it from Mikel's press conference today. Those were the main headlines that I took away from that. I'm just flicking through, see if there was anything else. He was asked about Salah missing out for Liverpool and the importance of that. And he said, yes, but both teams as well. We are missing very important players as well. We knew that. We have to adapt to it, and we still have to perform and win matches. And yeah, that was about it from Mikel's press conference today. All right, that's it from me for the second time today. Hope you enjoyed today's show. Quick updates from the press conference at London Colney. I'll be back tomorrow to really sort of focus that attention on Liverpool, potentially do my predicted 11 as well. So have a great end to your Friday, wherever you're watching or listening to this around the world. And I'll be back again to talk all things Arsenal once again tomorrow. Until then, speak to you soon.